Well, Grant, tell us what's going on.
Oh man, what's new? That is the question. Well, so it's been a solid year since the last time we did one of these.
Has it really? Like exactly?
No, it's been a little more.
It's
It was
over a year.
September.
Damn.
If you don't count the unaired tax episode, then yeah, it's been over a year.
Oh,
That episode should probably remain unaired. Like, nobody's like, oh, the tax episode, that sounds amazing.
we can take another stab at it in the spring.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Wait, we gotta pay taxes again still.
I don't think there was any solid information in that whole thing.
I haven't had the courage to go and listen to it, to be honest.
I try not to listen to any of these because I can't stand my own voice on the interwebs.
I can't stand your voice either.
Oh, God damn it! I thought it was just me. Bastards.
So it's been a solid year, right, Dylan?
And I think this is gonna be our check-in episode.
This has also been like reunited in general because we haven't even done a good job of staying in contact hardly. So yeah,
We're shitty friends.
yeah, we're shitty human beings.
we all got pretty like hermity
So
in
yeah,
the last 6 months.
so this is more of an excuse to catch up in general on friendship and in life. You know, two birds, one stone kind of scenario.
Yeah. I'm not gonna talk to you guys for another year and a half after this.
So this would be the In the Trenches podcast. Every year and a half we get together and we'll do one of these.
Sounds too frequent, if you ask me.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess the common factor where we all kind of, before we lost touch base, was like with DNA and the end of that, and that was like the last. Then everyone went in like 3 different paths, scrambling for work, and it opened up different doors, and it just kind of forced us out of our comfort. Because I don't know about you guys, but I was getting in a real comfort zone doing 4 illustrations a month. We were doing that for like almost a full 2 years or something. Getting in a real routine, and I couldn't, even if I was like, there was no work I could take on top of that, maybe 1 or 2 side gigs, but like the completely schedule locked up. And then just getting that paycheck, it kind of turned into a 9-to-5 sort of job. And then all of a sudden, that was it. We got that nice Christmas card, basically saying we were toast, and that they were no longer hiring artists for the game art, whatever it was, I can't remember. But and then everyone kind of scrambled and went in completely different directions.
Well, and I think too, we might be able to step it back just a bit, because I think Zach, you were off DNA before the Christmas thing, so you had already sort of gone down your own path before Grant and I got hit with that Christmas card.
Yeah, I think you guys were working on Hellfire for quite. It was still Hellfire, right?
Yeah.
You guys were working on that for quite a bit after I left, because I went and worked on the Mandate, and I believe all through this time, a lot of us were still doing S2 stuff, right?
Yeah,
I didn't leave.
On and off.
Yeah, on and off. I didn't
anyway.
leave Hellfire to go work on S2 stuff, but I'm trying to think. I thought that somehow it coincided with I was out of work and then I ended up working on the Mandate, but I think I left and went to work on the Mandate. So you guys had continued to work on the cards for a while.
It was through December of last year, 2014. So almost a year ago.
Right at the end of the year, up until a minute, and then 2005 started, and then
2015.
Yeah, 2015. Right. And then pretty much all my entire source of income just like nothing. So I started the year off with absolutely no job security whatsoever.
And we we didn't really have like, I don't think we had any kind of like heads up on that.
No, it was yeah, we got work, and then they like hooked me up. I think you too. You know, like we both got like 2 cards. Usually we just got a card every month, but they kind of like lined us up with 2 or 3 cards in a row consecutively. Like we got this one, we got this next one. So maybe that was kind of the maybe the hint or something. But yeah, there was no forewarning. It was just lots of work, and then actually Merry Christmas.
And that's literally what it was. It was a Christmas card. It was Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and yours. By the way, thank you for all your work. Goodbye.
What? Did it really say that?
Yes,
Yeah, it was
more or less.
That was the gist.
I got a DNA card. I got a Christmas card from them too.
Happy Christmas card, and I was like, oh, that's so sweet. It's like a little show. Like, they're like, oh, they're actually thinking about their artists and stuff. And I was like, oh, no. It's actually a breakup. You're breaking up. That's what it felt like.
It was a Dear John letter.
Yeah, Dear John after 2 years. That's good. Stung a little bit.
And that was, cause I guess we might have to like put this in perspective for everyone, because at that time, Zach, you were on the mandate.
Mm-hmm.
Grant, you were doing DNA. Did you have any other clients besides? Were you also doing S2 at the time, or was it just DNA?
S2 stuff.
Okay, so you're doing S2, and I was doing DNA and Incarnate games. But I had before that letter had come out, I was talking with S2 about potentially moving on to one of their projects and doing something, doing environment work for their project. So the DNA stuff happened, and for me it was kind of just like sort of good timing, because S2 was looking for somebody to fill this environment position. So for me, I felt like I sort of transitioned pretty smoothly out of DNA and into working with S2. But that wasn't the case for you at the time, Grant. You had S2, and that became your sole client until you got some new stuff that got cooked up.
Oh, I didn't even have them for a while because they cut back on the artists they were using. So, yeah, I had nothing. Like, literally both of them at about the same time. My 2 main sources of income and my main contacts for work. Because at the time, I was just like, I was falling on DNA as a huge crutch without realizing it. Well, I guess I kind of in the back of my mind I knew, but I don't know. I guess I didn't really plan ahead very well to what happened. So definitely learned a valuable lesson from that. So yeah, like the start of the year, there was no safety net. It was literally I have to really figure some shit out and do some hustling. And that was pretty mad rush to find work, because but I had a savings, so I was able to put away enough money to keep me. So I wasn't like completely terrified, but I was still freaking out a bit, and was getting close to debating on applying for some part-time job there for a little bit.
Man, that sucks.
Yeah, it was horrifying, but actually,
and I forgot, I have to mention that too. On top of that, around that same time, we finally got approval to start showing the work.
Yeah. Whole debacle.
So yeah, that was the other part, is that for the longest time, the majority of the time we were working for them, and this was this was our faults, I think, and I felt bad too, because I remember when Zach asked me this. When I signed the contract first, I didn't check to see that there was a clause that talked about moral rights, which essentially told us, no, you can't talk about this project, you can't show the work, you can't say you worked on anything for us, and it was like they took everything. And I remember, Zach, before you signed, you asked me, you had called me or texted me or something and said, like, hey, have you checked over the contract? Like, does everything look kosher? Does it look good? And I was like, yeah, man, it's fine.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And then, and that was in 2012 was when we first started working for them. So, I felt terrible when, 6 or 7 months down the road or a year later, however long it was before we started saying, hey, we want to start showing this work. Our images are out in the public, they're on these websites, let's start showing our work. And we realized we weren't allowed to do that. Like, rule number one: read your contracts.
Yeah.
Don't run into the position that we all ran into. But I remember that was a really important thing to be able to finally show that work once we were no longer working for them. Had we not, like, Grant, do you think, had you not been able to share that work, would that have affected your ability to find new clients as quickly as you did?
It definitely wouldn't have helped at all. But also, prior to that, I kind of set up a private gallery to where only clients I was kind of marketing towards could see it. So I had already had a lot of those images.
Okay.
Well, and I want to stop you real quick and just say that that's a pretty that's a pretty legit way to do that too. Like, you're not. From what I understand, that's like if you have some work that you really need to promote yourself, I think that's the way to do it, rather than just...
Without that, I would have been fucked, because I would have been showing almost like graduation type work, and that stuff was real. That's not even marketable work like that I can't make any money off of. So yeah, it would have been impossible to get work if I had not have done that. And it just made it a lot easier when I could start throwing stuff up on ArtStation that I had, all the stuff I'd done for Hellfire, and updated work and update all the sites. And it just looks a lot better when you're able to show it publicly. But going back, would y'all have not taken the DNA job originally if you would have clearly read the contract and knew it had been like 2 years before you could show any work?
Well, all I would say is I would have tried to negotiate to be able to show the work.
Right.
And I to be honest, I don't think I would have been successful, but at least knowing that I, tried would have felt a lot better to me.
I agree. I think I would have tried to negotiate, but to be honest, same thing. I don't think they would have gone for it, and then I probably still would have taken the work. And it sucks to say, but this was part. I think this is. I don't know. This is part of being early on in your career. Like, I would have taken it solely for the money. It was paying almost 4 times what I was getting paid with my other client at that point in time. Like, if I can do less work for more money, like, what? Yeah, that's a no-brainer. But at the time, I don't know. It sucks to know that I was selling all those rights for that kind of money. Like, I was selling my ability to even show the work and promote myself as an artist for money. And that would have sucked, but honestly, I probably would have done it. I don't know that I would have changed anything.
Yeah, and like, as much as it does suck, and it's kind of like a popular issue in like freelance illustration right now, I think it's just sort of like, it's just the majority of these, like even on Magic the Gathering and stuff, I think you end up with that, if I'm not mistaken.
I've heard Magic's a little better than most, because I haven't worked for Magic or Wizards, but I know artists still get print rights, and I know they can sell. Like, I know Chris Ron does a lot of stuff where he works in oils, so he still sells the original painting. Like, they have secondary revenue streams based off those images. There's no way we would have been able to do that with Hellfire. Like, we
can't even post our images larger than 1,000 pixels or something.
That was the other thing, and it wasn't 1,000. It ended up being, I think, 800.
Oh,
but they originally wanted to only give us 500.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like just bickering over the resolution of the image that we're allowed to show was ridiculous. I remember, Zach, you were like, no, like, we should be able to post full size, and I agreed, but I was willing to I needed to take something. It was like, I need to show these images. I gotta show these images somehow.
I also I don't know if you remember, but I got an even shorter end of the stick because I wasn't allowed to post my stuff without the watermark.
That's right.
You guys, I don't know what happened, so I haven't posted it anywhere. I haven't shared it all because it's just not worth sharing at that low of a resolution or with that crappy watermark all over it.
Like, are you talking about the giant one? DNA?
Yeah, I think it said it had to take up 25% of the image.
Oh my! Why did you get stuck with that?
You had like super rare cards or something.
They agreed to. Like, it was like this, or you can't show it. So,
Oh man.
yeah. I don't know if their contracts are still like that or if they're like that for everyone, but that yeah, that was what we got. That's what we got.
I was wondering why you haven't posted any of those. That makes sense. Those watermarks are atrocious.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm not proud. I'm not proud to show that stuff.
they're so terrible. I had no idea.
Yep.
Super bummer.
So what have you been doing since Hellfire then, Grant?
Well, like I said, it was a mad scramble. But like prior to that, like I kind of was doing a little bit of planning. I've always had a client list that I've slowly been building. I wasn't smart enough to actually be emailing these people. I was like, well, I'd have to say no to work anyway. So it felt really weird hitting people up, you know, be like, hey, I want to work for you. And then if they do get back to me, then like, oh, no, too busy, actually. So I had the base of a list that I had started, you know, contact information, and researching art directors and studios and just kind of popular board, tabletop, and card games that I was that were coming up on my radar. So I had that list, and then it was just a matter of getting the new work together, the DNA stuff, setting up the private portfolio while we were still kind of in negotiations with the resolution and all that stuff. And Chris Bjorks actually hooked it up with one of his buddies. Had started on the project, I think Devin, and so I was so pretty much like after 2 weeks after I got that email, I was able to take the small gig doing cards, and that pretty much saved my ass for a little bit. That gave me like another month and a half buffer to where I was able to just, you know, work off the savings account and then make some side money while I was doing the hustling, popping out those cards like one every 3 days or 4 days or whatever. And then all that while I was emailing, sending out mass emails and contacting a bunch of people and just really doing the legwork to try and line up a new source of revenue. And it was at that time, about a month and a half of that, and then I got in contact with Games Workshop, and which has been like a target client since I was like, I don't know, 17. I used to like,
Right.
yeah. So that was because you know I used to draw like out of the book manuals and the rule books when I was like 14 to 17. I used to play the game, so that was fucking awesome. And a lot of my like idol artists, the big heads, a lot of them got their start with Games Workshop. So that was pretty cool. And then I did my first gig with them, and they've been consistent. So they've been my main
Nice.
client this year. It's been quite the shift though. It's quite a bit of work. But they've been consistent on a monthly basis, and then. Yeah, so then I had those two, and then it's basically just doing the hustle and kind of broaden out to eight or so new clients that I've been working with off and on. And that's the big thing that I found was DNA was kind of a rare scenario for like freelancing, especially in the science fiction and fantasy genre. Like that doesn't happen very case when you get consistent work that fill up your entire month, and then for that work to be continued over a 2-year period. Like that rarely happens. In order to make it, you kind of have to have a broad, like, not have all your eggs in one basket. You got to have a bunch of clients because they're going to hit you up at random times. Like I'll get a gig from these one guys, and then they'll go cold, and then so I have to fall back to other clients. You got to constantly be in contact with everyone to make sure you have your schedule filled up so you don't have any empty spots. So that was kind of a new thing, juggling all that.
I just want to echo what you were saying. I actually heard, I was talking with the art director, and I mentioned the DNA stuff, and he said the exact same thing. He said I don't think I appreciated it at the time,
Yeah, exactly.
but he got me to realize like that's a pretty rare situation to have a client that's that consistent month after month after month after month. Like that doesn't happen all that often. I just thought, I mean, I don't know how you guys felt, but I thought like, oh yeah, this is the norm. This is just that's what it's like. So when that went away, I was like, oh, well, I'll just find another client that does that. And I feel like I've been a little lucky with that, but it's not that's not normal. That's not normal.
Not to that extent. With Games Workshop, like you pretty much, they have a large pool of artists that they go from, and they're super organized over there. They have their system figured out because they've been doing it for so long. But they have enough artists that they pretty much just give you one assignment a month, and they're usually pretty large pieces. So, which is good. So they'll give you consistent work like on a monthly basis, but that's still not enough to sustain a living off of just doing like one Games Workshop piece a month. So you have to have the rest of your schedule filled with some other work going into it.
And are you taking, like, do you feel that you're taking the full month to do one of those images? Like, is it that much work? Because if that's the case, then you're working even harder trying to add on those other clients to help, with the supplemental income.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because I don't think, even if if they gave me 1 month and I did do it in like a week and a half or a week or whatever, I don't think they'd have any more work lined up to where I'd get another one, because they've already like dispersed it out to all their other artists.
Gotcha.
So you're kind of like, so all right, well then I'm going to take these 4 other gigs, so you're end up doing like 5 illustrations. So they end up taking a whole month because you're also working on like 5 other illustrations or 4 other illustrations to fill up the time.
Yeah, I guess like I'm thinking about when we were working for S2, that was pretty regular. And then like I would imagine stuff for Legend of the Cryptids or Galaxy Saga would have been pretty regular, but those are also kind of like, I think rather than that being the norm, those games are kind of like they're this collectible card game, and I think that was really popular for a while, and then maybe it's gone away since. But yeah, I remember thinking almost the exact same thing when Hellfire went away. Was like, oh well, I'll just find another client and that does the same thing. And I also remember thinking, like, how do people work for so many different clients? When, like, do they just tell them, okay, I'm going to stop work? Because I thought they were all that way. Like, they were all really regular. And so I'd be like, well, how do you work for so many clients? Like, one client is giving me all this work.
Yeah, it was pretty naive, I think, because we were all, that's what we were expecting. That we're like, well, all right, I'll just work this client forever, or for like 2 months, and then I'll find this other client who has all this work, and I'll do them 2 months, and we'll do these like month blocks working to diversify. But it's like not how it works at all. And yeah, so that was kind of an awakening thing. But I think it's probably longevity-wise, like that really needed to happen, because, we literally had all of our, well, I think y'all kind of got, Zach, you already were able to kind of get out of it and switch gears, but so I had nothing going, like no backup plan. So it's super important to be able to, not, if you rely on one company, for one, you're not getting your name out there at all, especially if you can't show that work. So you're forming this super dependency on this one client, so you're really at the mercy. And it's really hard to negotiate like a contract when you have no other source of income, so that you kind of get trapped. And then they can, again, like what happened to us, eventually they are going to run out of work, and then you have no prior contacts or art directors to reach out to for more work, and then you're left doing the mad scramble for attention.
I saw a quote. There was some artist on Facebook that he made a post, and he said, and it was, I don't know, it seemed kind of eye-opening, but he said, as a freelancer, you should never have one of your clients be more than 60% of your income as a freelancer. Every client that you have should only take up, much smaller amounts than that. So if any one of them leave, you're fine, because your other clients are kind of picking up the workload. But if one of your clients is 60% of that income and they leave, and now you're down to 40% of what you used to be making, that's an issue.
Yeah, that's an issue. That makes a lot of sense. So I've slowly kind of wisened up because now, I mean, I'll run into clients who have a ton of work that could potentially like fill me up for 2 months, but I'll only sign on for like 3 or 4 pieces, and then I'll leave room to make sure I'm paying the other clients attention. Because then you run in the trap, because like if you do one card form, that's great. But if you're not offering them consistency, then they're just going to replace you or fill you in, or you just fall off their roster. So you got to continually kind of every once in a while be like, hey, remember we worked together this time? You got more work, and then like cater to them. And so it becomes like this weird like slide right kind of dating game with your art directors. You know, you're like playing the field and getting a little love over here, and then go over here, and you gotta, which is good because it also keeps it interesting. So you're not stuck working on the same project because. I could do fantasy stuff for days, but even I was showing a little bit of like, another DNA set. All right.
Gotta paint that chainmail. Gotta paint that chainmail.
So the variety has been really nice this year because I had the opportunity to work on a variety of different projects and a few new things like getting them launched and stuff to be a part of and kind of establishing the look as well as some older IPs. So it's been pretty cool.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Before we go on though, we should probably update like people on the fact that like Dylan, you moved to Seattle.
Yes.
In the time, like we should probably let people know about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So my girlfriend and I, we moved to Seattle from Denver in June of this year. So at that point, I was full into work with S2. I guess now they're Frostburn Studios is their new name. But Frostburn Studios and then Incarnate Games. So DNA was done. That was done back in December. And then January through June, I was doing stuff for Frostburn and Incarnate. And that was one of the big reasons why we were able to move. Working freelance, I'm not tied to any one city or location. And my girlfriend, she was working at a mortgage company, and she was sick of it. She was tired of it. She wanted to change. And our lease was coming up, and so it was just a good time to say, hey, well, let's try something else. And we had friends like Zach and our buddy Jay out in Seattle. We were looking at places in both Seattle and California, and my girlfriend and I both decided that Seattle was probably going to be the better bet for both of us. So yeah, we picked up and moved in June. Took us about 2 days, and that's where we're at now. And then 2 days later, Jay left, and then a week later, Zach left.
Yeah.
And now we're friendless.
Yeah. Almost as soon as I found out about Dylan moving to Seattle, I said, it's time to go.
Oh, this place is not so cool as I once thought it was. Actually.
Yeah, I could just feel it. Every like foot closer you got, Seattle just felt more and more stifling.
So that was cool. That was cool. Those guys helped us move in, and then I helped them pack their shit, and they were both gone within a week.
Yeah.
That was always fine on times. Obviously, California is now the new cool place. So.
Yeah. But no, that was, if I remember, that was around the time that Zach, because you were doing stuff for the Mandate.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were I remember you saying you were kind of like you wanted to be sort of out of the freelancing game and wanted to try the studio position again. So you had a contact over at Microsoft. And
yes.
That sort of kick-started your move out of Seattle in a way.
Yeah, I had kind of a chain reaction thing happen, and it starts way back when I was still working on the Mandate. That was a freelance job, or it was like a studio job that I did remotely, I guess. But it was still contract. It was still freelance. But like any project in video games, that industry is pretty volatile. So for a while, I was doing. So I worked on the Mandate, and then I was out of work for a little while they were getting publisher money. So they couldn't. They had to go down to a skeleton team, and so I was sort of left looking for more work, and that kind of left. That just the fact that that could happen. I mean, it had nothing to do with them in particular, but the fact that that could happen left a bad taste in my mouth. And I've always wanted to work for a studio. I always thought that was what I was supposed to do, or how you were supposed to do this, I guess. So I was looking. Since then, I applied at like Wargaming in Seattle, and there's a bunch of companies out there. I remember. But Bungie had an opening, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do this," and that was crazy. But I freelanced with S2 for a little while, and then I started working on the Mandate again. And then about that time, I started talking with Microsoft, which is also in the Seattle area, and they do a lot of hiring. I know some friends who are concept artists there. They have a lot of positions that open, and one of them was it was in some smaller game studio, and I interviewed for that, and I ended up getting it, which is awesome. I signed an offer letter and everything, and then I was just waiting on a start date. I went home for a little while and saw my family and spent like a bit of money, and got back and still didn't have a start date, and I realized through talking with them and everything that I wasn't going to get a start date, and so I was looking for a new apartment at that time as well, and I'd almost signed a lease at somewhere like really expensive. I was going to be making a lot more money than I'd ever had at Microsoft, and when that didn't work out, I was kind of left in this crazy vacuum. And I was about that time I did an art test for Games Workshop, and I think I was doing S2 stuff throughout that time. They've been such a forgiving client for like all of us. They're kind of like our fallback, but it's obviously we've all enjoyed working for them. So I was doing that, and then doing the Games Workshop art test, and then I got in contact with a buddy who worked at a studio down here in California, and they had an opening, and I didn't really think that was going to work, but it was definitely something else that would have helped my situation, and that did end up working out, and I moved down here about, like you said, a week after you moved to Seattle, and so now I'm working at Turtle Rock Studios in-house. It's still contract, and I'm a concept artist here, so it's a pretty crazy time. I was gonna move out of my apartment right about the time I thought I would have been starting at Microsoft, and when that didn't happen, I had to kind of go to my landlord and be like, "Hey, look, I need to stay here for another month," and I was paying the full amount of rent. I'd been sharing that with two people before, so it can, if you don't. And what saved me through all this, I guess, if I want to be useful talking about this, what saved me through all of this was having a savings account. So yeah, that was a crazy time.
That was terrifying.
Yeah, but you learn, I'm glad I had the savings like that. It doesn't really hit you until something like that comes up, because that shit happens. Projects get canned, and anytime you spend your savings and then or at least this is what I think, or what I'm going to start doing, is anytime you spend that savings and then start a new job, your first priority needs to be to build up that savings again with your income from that project, because you don't know what could happen. So just having that buffer, honestly, if I didn't have that buffer, despite getting the job with Turtle Rock, if I didn't have that buffer, I wouldn't have even been able to take it, because I had to pay the last 2 months of my apartment the full amount, which was like a crazy amount, and then I had to pay first and last for the apartment down here, as well as the move. So that was a shitload of money, despite the fact that I got a new work.
That's like 4 months of rent plus your moving costs before you even get the job.
I had my first week here, I had like under $1,000 to my name. Like it was bonkers. And I have like other. I guess I could have borrowed money from people, but it's just like how.
Dream.
Huh?
Like the California dream. You're moving down there, no money.
Yeah, dude, I stayed on the beach the first night, and I just like some locals brought me in and gave me beer and stuff. It was great.
Drinking Mad Dog 2020 for like.
Yeah, that's right. Throwing up fluorescent blue.
But yeah, that is key though. Like, it just offers you opportunity and flexibility and ableness to adapt. Like it's pretty much a must. Is being able to have something you can dip into, because you're going to get through some rough times, and nothing's perfect and nothing is forever. So just preparing for that, and then because I mean you're under contract right now, so that at least you have like kind of a date in mind where you can rebuild if it's necessary, and so you're able to adapt if you move on to something else, or they just hire you again for another re-up your contract or whatever. So it's just,
right. That's the one thing, though, that, like, I did kind of, like, I don't know, I think I saw an ugly side of our industry at that point, because I had signed an offer with Microsoft, and you would think that would be, or I don't know, I would guess that that would be binding. I should probably do some research into this, but, I mean, I was waiting on a start date. Like, it was like I was going to work with them, and then for them to back out, that kind of was like, oh man, like I wanted to check and see where I'd missed that clause or something like that. So I think, I don't know, I don't want to encourage paranoia or like suspicion or any of that stuff, but I think you really do have to hold your cards close to your chest, and you really haven't got it until you're sitting down at your desk working on your first assignment, I would say.
And what's interesting is that your Microsoft story, the same thing happened to a friend of ours from RimCAD. The same exact thing happened with Tyler. I don't know if you guys remember that story, but the same thing. And it just kind of baffles me. Well, that, like, I don't know, I don't want to call it commonplace, but to have it happen with two people that I know, it just seemed very like, wow, this is the reality. That could happen.
I also don't want to like diss on Microsoft too much, because the way they work isn't traditional. They go through recruiters, and so you're not actually an employee of Microsoft. You're an employee of a temporary employee, I guess, of a recruiting agency. So I don't want to be like, oh, big bad Microsoft. I think it's a bit more complicated, which is why things like that can happen. But it does suck, and it did suck.
It's strange. Here's this thing that I never thought could happen, and I can point to two examples of it happening. Like it opened my eyes. It opened my eyes. That's for sure.
It has been a blessing in disguise, because I wouldn't have even reached out to Oakley to I think I was even just venting, and he brought up that there was an opening. And I don't think I would have even done that had that not happened. So it did allow me to do this, but I was kind of shitting bricks for a while. So.
And I want to jump in to say too that you and I both applied for the position that you ended up getting. So
yes.
That's another situation where, like, I don't know, I guess that's an example of the competition in the marketplace and being the right place at the right time with the right portfolio. And I think that's kind of where I fell short, and that's where your kind of doors started to open. Like, it's a really important thing to have all those sort of things line up to present you with that opportunity.
Definitely. Well, Dylan, I think you're the only one left. I mean, what have you been up to?
So I'm still doing stuff for Frostburn Studios, still doing environment stuff for Frostburn, and some tabletop stuff for Incarnate Games. So they've been my steady clients. Incarnate, we'll be 2 years next summer, so like a year and a half.
You guys are such a cute couple.
I know. It's been really fun. It's been really. That's actually. I've been in a similar situation. What Grant was saying, like establishing sort of the art style of the property, that's been my role with Incarnate, and that's been really fun. That's been really cool to kind of be at the spearhead of like creating what these characters and what this world sort of looks like. And then Frostburn, my situation with them is I started last summer. I took a online course in matte painting with David Luong. And matte paint, like I'm big into environments. I like doing environments, and matte painting was sort of a side of environments that I had never like touched before. And so taking that course, I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, here's a whole new there's a new side of doing environments that that's a new tool on my tool belt. So once I started showing the work that I was doing for that class, that's when Frostburn reached out and said, hey, we got a bunch of environments we'd like someone to bring on and take care of for the next year. And so that's kind of how I started working with them. And it's, I guess, in a way that like goes to show like the more you experiment and the more you sort of push your skills, like the more opportunities you have to kind of present to future prospective clients and stuff like that. Like you just become that much more valuable because here's this new thing that you can do. And it's been exciting. I've been having a lot of fun with that one. It's fun because it's not just fantasy. That was the other part of like kind of what Grant was saying about DNA. Like I was getting a little not burned out, but I was getting a little jaded to like fantasy stuff. And it's been nice with Frostburn because not everything they do is strictly in a fantasy-based world, and so I get to play a little bit with different genres when it comes to their environment stuff. So it's been fun. It's been fun. That's been all my professional stuff, and then evenings and weekends are dedicated to my personal project, which has been making this year has been exciting. Trying to get my story off the ground has been it's frustrating in a good way because there's new challenges. For example, I think we all work in the visual field. We all do visual entertainment stuff. But for my project, like before I could really get like a lot of the visuals out, I realized I was gonna have to get a story taken care of. And I don't do a lot of like creative writing. I hadn't really touched that since the little bit that I might have done back in high school. So this year has been working on my writing for that project, and it's strange and really refreshing to be working creatively in a medium that's not painting and drawing. Like being creative through language this year has been really exciting. So I'm looking forward to the next year to come with this thing. This will be really fun.
Nice. Yeah, I've always liked seeing your pieces like that, so you gotta keep us updated.
Yeah, definitely. And it's been oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. Well, I was saying, like, I was kind of interested in your organization-wise, because I mean, it sounds like you got it pretty wired out to it. This is pretty impressive to juggle your freelance stuff and have actually a set block of time to work on your own IP, especially in just not even doing art, but like and branching out in other aspects, writing and whatnot. Because I don't know, I think I've made time to do maybe I can count the number of personal pieces I've made this year on like one hand. It's extremely sad.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, how's the juggling being?
It's been good because this year I'm glad you brought that up because this year I did something different that I haven't done in the past. Is I actually set a set schedule. In the past, I sort of just work, I'd wake up late. My hours they were just all shifted way later in the day. I'd wake up late and then I'd work really late. So I'd be waking up at 10 or 11, sometimes later if I was up, later than that, and I'd be working until 2, 3, sometimes 4 in the morning. And not that was bad, but I realized my hours they would shift. Like sometimes I'd finish early, sometimes if I was really into it, I'd just keep working later and later. And like that can work, except when later and later means 6 or 7 in the morning, and then I'm sleeping until like 1 in the afternoon. Like then the cycle just it was not good. So this year I actually made like a conscious effort to, you know, my workday stops at 6 o'clock. Like my girlfriend comes home, make dinner, and 6 o'clock I sort of put that stuff aside. I don't work weekends either. And I think those are all things that I could have done in the past, and I just wasn't. And that gave me a really scrambled schedule, and that kind of that threw me off a lot. And so now, by having these set hours, like, okay, I'm done at 6. You know, I wake up at 9, 8:30, 9 o'clock, start working by 10. I'm finished working by 6 o'clock. That gives me my evenings and weekends to do whatever I want, and for me, that means personal projects. So that's been a big help. That's been a big help.
What kind of schedule do you? Sorry for interrupting you. What kind of schedule do you do for your personal work? Like, is there usually you just kind of pick it up when you want, or do you have a schedule for that?
So that stuff, it sort of depends. For the writing, I've relied a lot on getting feedback from other people. So when I'm not getting, when I'm waiting on feedback from people to kind of read through all my stuff, I actually have there's another little baby project of mine that I've been working on. I've been wanting to redesign all the Harry Potter book covers. So while I'm waiting on feedback, I'll kind of, you know, I'll shuffle that project into the mix. But I don't have sort of set hours for that. It's not like, okay, I'm going to dedicate from 8 to 11 o'clock. I'm going to be working on this. For that, it's if I can just get at least 2 hours every night, and then more on the weekends, great. It's not isn't quite as structured as the day-to-day stuff. When my Precipice project, when the writing's finished and it's time to jump back into the artwork, which is going to be really soon, I'm going to be a bit more regimented with my work on that. I'm going to actually set start and end dates for all the pieces that I need to get done, and I'll have a bit more structured evening and weekend schedule for that. But for right now, because there's so much back and forth on feedback, I kind of just a couple hours each night. If I can get that, I'm in good shape.
Nice.
I think that's the important thing is, because I mean you still got to keep up with your income, you got to do all that, but just the fact that each time, like every day, if you're just doing that thing for an hour, it all adds, it builds and builds. I have a hard time. It's hard to stay focused on it. You're like, oh, I can only work for an hour, and then you're like, oh, an hour, 30 minutes, and like, I'm not even bothered. Like, I can't get in the zone.
Right.
Make all these false things to keep you from doing it. But if you actually sit down and give that quality time, just like an hour a day on working, gearing towards that personal stuff, and that's something I've been working at, it can make a big difference. And it feels good too. I've just started just doing like 20 minutes of in my sketchbooks. I've been trying to get more traditional drawing, and that's always been my jam. But doing that 20 minutes every day feels. That's like the highlight right there. It's like it just builds. It builds good, and then it all comes down to it. So
definitely, and I think too with the schedule, I noticed I'm doing more things, like spending more time. I need to be doing more, but I feel like I'm spending more time out of the out of the house, out of the apartment. Either whether it's going to a movie with my girlfriend, or going on a hike, or just doing something outside, because that was always like the joke. I remember like at least last year I felt like that was the big joke. It's like, oh, we're freelancers and we're in a cave and we don't go outside. And to an extent, that was pretty true. But I think having the schedule, it's like, all right, well, I know I'm not working this weekend. So maybe Saturday is going to be personal project day, and Sunday let's go do something. Like, I didn't do that last year. Free days sort of just happened every once in a while, and if we felt like our schedules lined up, and it was just not having a set schedule made that a little more difficult than it should have been. and having the schedule that I have now, I feel like it's easier to make that happen. Do you feel, Grant? Because I see every once in a while I see pics of you on Facebook. Like, do you feel like you're getting out? You feel like you're getting out of the house more?
Keywords are every once in a while. No, it's just been like balls out this entire year. Like mad hermit lifestyle. I've been just trying. Like I try to do good and get outside. I've incorporated a little more health, a lot more health and exercise, which has been a big thing for me.
Yeah.
So making sure I'm taking breaks every hour and a half. You know, if it's only 5 or 10 minutes, you know, just physically moving my body, push-ups, crunches, whatever, staring at things in the distance so my eyes don't bleed.
Oh fuck! I need to do that.
Yeah, you know, I try and get a running schedule set to like just a good solid morning routine has been the big change. But social life, man, it's still Delaney will tell you it could use work. This month has been I've been dealing with all kinds of burnout from the last 2 months. I've gotten probably a little too hard. Got a little over my head with the work because I just kind of decided, I'll take that on. And then, you know, and I had it all perfectly lined up. Well, I'll just get this done, but then I didn't factor in that revision time that can be a factor.
Yeah, I can be a bitch.
Yeah, so that kind of fucked me over. So it pushed me back on one project, and then we were backed up on 5 projects. Yet they all have due dates. So yeah, dude, I was getting really, and each one was getting harder and harder to finish. So this month has actually been like my month this year of just taking it easy. And I say like I take the month off. Actually, still took a job, and one of my other jobs went in a week over. So really, my big break from the year was like 3 weeks, but I also took a job, so maybe it was like 2 weeks. But anyways, yeah, there's need to still trying to work on that balance of a life outside of my set old hermit cave. What's it like over for you, Zach? How are you doing with that?
Yeah, because you have set hours now with the studio. So do you feel like you have a stronger work-life balance now that you kind of have, you know, this is when I work, and when I'm out of the studio, I'm not at work anymore?
I wish I had a happy answer for you guys, but well, we have core hours, and so those are hours where you have to be at the studio. They're not your only hours in the day, but you have to be there during those times. So, and that's 11 to 6. So that's 7 hours, right? 11 to 6. Yeah, that's only 7 hours. So you can arrive earlier or later, and many people stay longer than that. The studio is pretty flexible with hours that you work, and it's just kind of like if people start to see you slacking, then you know then if that happens, then it's a really big problem. But generally, you are expected to be responsible. So if you take time off, they trust that you know what you're doing. So you can kind of get away with like, well, you can't get away with slacking, but you can definitely get away with doing what you want, and then you've got a lot of work to do. That said, I haven't really been too crazy with my schedule. I generally go in around, I like to get there around 10, and then I'll probably go home around like 7. I like being there, and I like working, and since it's not so strict, I'm not always working all the time. We have conversations, and so I just enjoy being there. I kind of hang out with people. So I've been working a lot. For the first like 3 months, 2 or 3 months, I've only been here for July, August, September, October. I've only been here for like 4 months. I didn't have a car, so I was biking into work, and California is fucking spread out. So I was just going to work and then coming home and like painting Warhammer figures or like playing video games. So my work life schedule hasn't been like excellent. I've been I haven't been like sad or anything, but I've been working a lot, and now that I just bought a car, I was able to buy a car because of this job. I was able to save up some money and do that. Now I'm kind of like realizing that I'm still used to working all the time, and I don't want to like jinx myself, but I'm kind of like, what the hell do I do with all this free time? So it's been a weird thing, and because I do work like those set hours, like you were talking about, Dylan. When I get home, I don't instantly want to work on artwork. I've always kind of had that problem, but I'm so used to it that I still feel guilty about like going out to do stuff, and usually it's dark, so I'm not like going out to run or anything. But I'm still getting used to it. It's only been 4 months, so I think I'm doing all right. But yeah.
Dude, that guilt thing is such a bitch. Like,
It is.
I rarely like. There's no reason I should feel guilty if I ever not work. But then, like, if I'm not grinding like myself down to the nubs, it's like then I go out and I'm like, in my back of my head, I'm just like, man.
I also have to add. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I have to add to that I'm also really new to California, and I do have friends here, but they're all like Jay's here now, obviously, and then Oakley's here, but he kind of lives far away, and he works in Santa Monica, which is pretty far away from where he lives. So most of his time is spent commuting and then going home and just resting. So on top of not having a car and then having kind of weird hours. I guess I don't really have weird hours, but I haven't been like eager to get out. So in Seattle, like I kind of wanted to piggyback off of what you said, Dylan, because you're having a schedule now. It definitely, I can see that I would have a more healthy balance. And if I had that schedule in Seattle, that would have been awesome. I had like all my friends there, and I knew where everything was, all the restaurants and shit I like to go to. So I'm just kind of rebuilding that here. So we'll have to do another check-in, and I'll let you know whether I've come out of my hermit hole.
Your life's not so sad in the present.
Yeah.
For me, this is real. Like it's not there's going to be sacrifice thing. I mean, the competition is so high. Like, I don't even know what it's like studio-wise, but like, and it's a pretty small. Like, you think there's so many artists now, like that. It's really a tight community. Like, I mean, y'all were saying earlier, it's so small that y'all were literally applying for the same job.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy.
So it is a pretty tight-knit group, and however, like, it's extremely, and it's always up and coming. It's super competitive. So gotta, I don't know, like social life and things. You gotta find a good balance, but it's gonna take a hit regardless. So it's really cool to hear that you're able to actually figure this out. Like, you got the artist life hack going on right now, Dylan. So that's fucking awesome.
I think you. I mean, everyone can do it. You guys can totally do it. I think, and maybe this is. I don't want to sound. I don't want to sound like holier than thou or anything, but I feel like for the longest time, and I'm guilty of this too. But I felt like for the longest time, my excuse for a lot of things was, oh, I can't do that. I'm too busy. I'm just working. I'm working. And when I like sat down and actually like realized that I could do this schedule, I was like, wait a second, like, no, I totally have time to do other shit.
Yeah.
I totally have time to do other shit. This whole like I'm working like 20 hours a day, that's nonsense. That's not happening. Like, no, I can set aside this time, and that's when I realized that, okay, that's all right. Well, let me make a schedule. Let's do that. Okay, after 6 o'clock, things no more. That's it. And weekends, I'm not working weekends anymore. And I realized too with the freelance stuff, the only reason I was working weekends is because I was putting for certain clients, if, like, for example, for Incarnate, a lot of times I set the deadlines for the pieces that I work on for that. And I was setting deadlines on the weekend. Like, that was my fault. The only reason I was working weekends is because I set deadlines to be on the weekends. And in my head, I was like, oh, well, if I finish it up for the weekend, that means I can start fresh on Monday for new work with this client. And I don't know, that really was the crux of my problem, I felt, was that I was setting deadlines on days that I really, that could have been switched around. That really could have and should have been switched around. I noticed with some of the other clients, the larger studios, they aren't working weekends. I'll submit a piece on Friday and I don't get feedback till Monday. So it didn't make sense to me that I'm, working through the weekend trying to get something in at midnight on Sunday when they're not even going to see. Like, it was pointless. It was pointless.
That is something key right there. Most of your art directors are not working weekends, so there's usually there's more room to play. They're not going to get back to you. That's like in working for the UK, like with Games Workshop. Man, I feel like every other week their art directors are just taking a week off, and they're like, oh, they'll be out of it. I'll get it like instant email, and oh, so and so's out of the office for a week. I'm like, do you guys ever work? What's going on here? Y'all don't work on the weekends. You're taking a weekend every 2 weeks. So that's been kind of like, man, they gotta figure it out over there. Why am I working so goddamn hard?
I also think that, like, with that schedule thing you were talking about, Dylan, you would say, like, you wouldn't go do something because you would just be like, oh no, I'm working. I noticed, I think I started to notice that it was like it seems like it's the right thing to do, but it's actually this lazy thing to do where you just, like, you shut out all distraction, you shut out all possibility of doing stuff, and say you're working, but then I would notice when I would sit down to work, I wasn't actually always working. And so it feels like the safest bet is this nuclear option to just say, oh, no, I'm always working. And that's how much time you need to work. But when you set that schedule, you allow yourself a time to, like, focus solely on work and then have a time where you can focus solely on whatever distraction you want. Like, that's been nice about work, is I actually get, like, a lot of shit done at work because I'm at work, and then I don't have to worry about going to buy groceries in the middle. Like, if I would wake up at 11, I would be like, oh, I gotta go buy groceries before, the place, like, I don't want to, when I was in Seattle, especially, this is kind of what I'm talking about, I would have to ride my bike to the grocery store, and it was like, well, I can't bike, like, at midnight because there's no lights on the trail, so I'd have to go bike to the grocery store in the middle of when I was supposed to be working on stuff. So it became this weird, crazy time when if I'd have had a schedule, I could have done it before or after work rather than right in the middle. So.
Sure. Well, and I know some of the distractions, that you're talking about, like, for me, like Facebook, sometimes that can be a distraction. And I know Dan Brown was telling me he just unplugs his internet. He said when he just doesn't even, he's not even connected to the internet while he's working on stuff. And for as well as I know, that's what Grant does, because Grant's never around.
Grant, do you even have internet? How are we talking to you right now?
No, I know. I got the this Wi-Fi thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I got some.
If it wasn't for Delaney, no one would know about Grant.
Oh no, she's the best. She's like, oh, he's alive, and then look, I found this picture of him doing something fun. What you don't know, she's backlogging like from 10 years ago. Yeah, no, it's all willpower. But the Facebook thing will get you, like, so I try to stay on that, because the quality of the work is everything. Because, like, literally, you can say you're working for 20 hours, but you're not really, just because you're sitting in front of the computer. There's so many things going off and emails to check. Like, you're not physically painting for 20 hours. That's not even real life. So you gotta catch yourself. It's like you will be scrolling on the Facebook, and that is because I have a timer, a stopwatch everywhere I go. Like, I'm so fucking anal about it now. So,
Really?
Yeah, it's running constantly. So it's running right now. I'm timing out this podcast. How much hours?
Wow, really?
Yeah, dude, I'm pretty nuts on the time. So yeah, I try to block in an hour and a half, time, and then boom, it's an hour and a half. I'm stopping work. I'm going outside, scrolling through Facebook, and then I'll like time the breaks on there. But then so when you have that kind of set of hour and a half time frame, like if you hop onto Facebook, you're a lot more conscious of the time you're eating away because that's like your working time. However, it's a fucking bitch because I'll still be doing it. And then, but whenever, and I don't think people really realize like all the energy you're using for your painting, mentally wise, and then when I'll just check my Facebook real quick. That's like a complete reset of your brain.
Yeah.
It has to have recovery time when you get back on your painting, and you're like losing energy and work time that you're not even conscious of because you check your Facebook for 2 minutes.
I read something recently that mentioned that it took. I remember the article was saying it took like 20 to 30 minutes for somebody to quote unquote like get in the zone, and the minute you sort of break that concentration and that focus, it takes about that same amount of time to recover and get back into it. So when you're in that zone, you need to hold that for however long you are disciplined enough to do that for, an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is, and then take your well-deserved break. But if you're getting distracted every 15, 20 minutes, you're garbage. Like you're not doing anything of quality, or at least not very efficiently.
Yeah, the math definitely doesn't add up. So I think that's one of those things you're constantly fighting with. At least I know that's my problem. I mean, especially when I start getting stuck in an area, and then like, oh, it's really fucking hard, and then I start looking for distractions, or I'm like, oh, I really need to grab reference for this piece of armor that even though I'm working on the background, I'll just like go on Google. So that's like my big thing, is because I kind of feel like I'm working, but I'm really just scrolling through cool images on Google, and I get trapped in this rabbit hole. They're like, oh, that's a cool image. I got to document this in this folder over here. It's a huge trap.
You get, like, I notice when I have to make a decision about something is when I will do that. Like when I've got to make a tough decision, or I've got to like paint like some rubble and I don't want to like go and find the reference for it, or I'll get on Facebook and it's like, no, just like go and make the decision, or like if making the decision is going to be really taxing and you'd rather just take a break, go and take a break, but don't do Facebook. Like I'll get up and walk around.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That timer thing, Grant, is yeah, I do the same thing. Like if I'm really worried about something, like if I for some reason I'll get stressed out about drawing at home because I'm like, oh, but I have all these things, like I have laundry or I have to clean something, and really they're not, so urgent. They're just like, they're kind of just excuses not to draw. I'll kind of like make a deal with myself where I'll be like, well, how about you draw for like an hour, because that's enough time to get your right brain thinking and actually get some stuff done. And so I'll set a timer for an hour, and then I've drawn, and then now I can go and work on stuff. And usually I find, oh, it only took me 15 minutes to do the dishes. Like, so that timer thing is a nice hack when you just can't reason with your brain to be like, look, you need to do this now.
Yeah, I think that's the hacks, finding those little things, because everyone has their own strengths and the weaknesses, but anything you can do to combat those things, and to trick your brain into functioning properly, whether it's playing with time, a schedule, any sort of thing to better suit your productivity is huge, and everyone has their own vices and bad habits that you got to figure out solutions for.
Well, did we miss anything with this? This was our check-in, and we've kind of strayed from that. Did we cover any topics? I mean, that we're running. I think we're getting close to about an hour and a half for this podcast so far.
I don't know. Well, what's the transition bit? So, like, I feel like we casually brushed over. Like, you were freelancing for like 2 years, Then all of a sudden you're working for a pretty big like in-house studio concept design for going from like freelance illustrator to concept designer. So I mean, we just breeze right over. That's a pretty huge change. So what's the switch been like from illustration to design to? Well, I guess you were already working on the mandate for design-wise, but you know, going from freelance to in-house studio job and working for a pretty high-end studio.
Well, you said it. I mean, you said it. Like when I was working on the mandate, I was doing essentially the same thing. Like the biggest change from concept to illustration was just that what you're doing, like your work becomes less precious. Like I've been doing less work on polishing and more things on iteration and turning things around and a lot more thinking. I don't want to just say you don't have to think with illustration, but I've definitely been. You do a lot more considering. As for studio life, I really enjoy being around people. I really like the people I'm working with. I don't think it's for everyone, and a lot of people don't think it's for them, but for me, I really, I'm already a hermit anyway, so working with people is the added bonus of I have to talk with them anyway.
You have a social life with the people you work with, you know?
Yeah. Which has been cool. Like I've been going and playing games with people after work, and that's been really neat. And I work with Jay, but he works upstairs, so that sucks. But
you can't hold hands while y'all paint.
not anymore. Not anymore. There was a time.
What the fuck?
There was a time where we hold hands.
All checked in. All right, next year.
Next year?
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a good time talking to you guys. I won't miss you. No, I really have to join the Hangouts more. I've been feeling really. Jay has actually been making me feel really guilty. He's
Jay's never in the Hangouts. What does he mean he feels guilty for?
He's like you gotta stay in touch with people. He's like it's not good.
He does do that though. He's on Skype a lot.
Yeah.
I will say that. He's never in the Hangouts, but he's always on Skype. He's always around on Skype.
So, Zach, you're kind of like me. Like you say, like, I really need to do that. I say that all the time, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, let's make an effort.
What is it?
Once a week we'll try and. I think that's about as much as I can handle now. I don't know what it is, but sometimes I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why I don't want to talk to my friends.
Yeah. I hate people too.
I think you know what it is. I don't want to get berated for not talking with you guys in so long. I don't want to join the hangout.
That'll only happen the first time, and then the minute you're a regular, then
somebody new joins, and then they're like, "Whoa, look at who hasn't been here for a while."
Yeah,
all right, so give it a month. You have to give it a month to get all that feedback.
That's a lot of berating.
A lot of energy. A lot of berating you have to put up with.
That's probably
scary.
best you just
I'm just not gonna get on.
Yeah, that's probably best you guys stay out.
All right, so we're right back to where we started.